drive on, but you can make it a dream with a new pre-owned four-wheel drive from Dream Motors. We all know Dillon streets in the winter are a nightmare to drive on, but you can make it a dream with a new pre-owned four-wheel drive from Dream Motors. We all know Dillon streets in the winter are a nightmare.
Hearing to obtain comment for the approval of the final plat of Phase 2 of Beaver Pride subdivision to order at 6 p.m. I'll open up to the floor for comments from the public. Is that the person on Zoom now?
My name is Clint Lytle. I'm the engineer on the project, and hopefully you can hear me.
Yes. Are you here for the Beaver Pride subdivision?
Yes, I am. I'm here for any questions, and I have a brief statement if you'd like. I could.
Yeah, the council would like to hear it.
Okay, yeah, so for the record, my name is Clint Lytle. I'm with Alpine Surveying and Engineering. I've been the engineer on the project since its inception back in 2013, I think. Beaver Pride Phase 2 subdivision is a 10-lot residential project that fronts to Sky High Street. The lot sizes range from 9,500 to 11,600 square feet. The preliminary plat of Beaver Pride was originally approved back in May of 2014, and pursuant to MCA 76-3-617 as a phase development, we have 20 years to build it out. So we're at about 7 years right now. The May 2014 preliminary plat approval had 20 conditions of approval. And within my cover letter of my final plat application, and I'm not sure if you have that application in front of you, but I go through all 20 of those conditions and how the Phase 2 subdivision has met those. Some specific highlights of those conditions include We installed a 48-inch culvert in the irrigation ditch that runs parallel to Sky High along our side of the project. We went through the county weed district and received a approved county weed plan to control weeds on the property. We built the south half of Sky High Street with curb and gutter, sidewalk, and pavement that front the new lots. Between phase 1 and 2, we've dedicated a little over 1 acre of parkland to the city. The state requirements for parkland is 0.75 acres for the project, so right now we're ahead of the curve by about 0.3 acres that we'll use on future phases of the project. We also constructed about 1,270 linear feet of 10-foot wide paved trail along the east boundary of the Beaver Pride project with this phase. The phase 2 subdivision has been completed consistent with the original preliminary plat approval and council decision of May 2014, and we've made no material changes to the land use, density, lot configuration, access, or infrastructure as originally approved by the city council. So with that, I'm here if you have any questions, and I appreciate your time. And I guess in closing, I have to say go Cass as an alumni. That's what I as well. Thank you.
I used to like you. Sorry, Clint.
I'm sure we can get you a sticker or two, Todd.
Any questions for Clint? So if no one else is here, we'll say the first call to recess. No one else wants to have any comments? Second call for any comments on the Beaver Pride subdivision? Okay, it's 6:05. We're going to stand recessed until probably 6:25. We'll open up if anyone else shows up for comments and go from there. So at 6:05, we'll be recessed for 20 minutes.
We all know Dillon streets in the winter are a nightmare to drive on, but you can make it a dream with a new pre-owned four-wheel drive from Dream Motors.
$6.25. Any other public comments on the final plat of the phase 2 of the Beaver Pride subdivision? No one else has showed up. Do you have any other comments, Clint?
No, thank you. I appreciate you allowing me to participate via Zoom and not have to drive these terrible roads we have tonight. So,
Thank you for showing up. Okay, I'll call one more time for any more comments on the Beaver Pride. Second, call for any more questions on the Beaver Pride subdivision phase 2 plat. Okay, we'll recess from the public hearing until 6:30. So we have about 3 minutes. So we'll stand recessed until 6:30.
We all know Dillon streets in the winter are a nightmare to drive on, but you can make it a dream with a new pre-owned four-wheel drive from Dream Motors. We all know Dillon streets in the winter are a nightmare to drive on, but you can make it a dream with a new pre-owned four-wheel drive from Dream Motors. We all know Dillon streets in the winter are a nightmare to drive on, but you can make it a dream with a new pre-owned four-wheel drive from Dream Motors.
Order the public hearing to annex and zone wholly surrounded property owned by John Grant at 40 Fairway Drive to order. Are there any community members want to put some input? We have no one on Zoom. No one came in the audience. So I'll make the first call for if we have any other questions from the audience. Second call. Okay, we'll recess the public hearing until about 6:44. We'll call back to order if anyone shows up. Hearing is recessed.
We all know Dillon streets in the winter are a nightmare to drive on, but you can make it a dream with a new pre-owned four-wheel drive from Dream Motors. We all know Dillon streets in the winter are a nightmare to drive on, but you can make it a dream with a new pre-owned four-wheel drive from Dream Motors. We all know Dillon streets in the winter are a nightmare to drive on, but you can make it a dream with a new pre-owned four-wheel drive from Dream Motors.
Public hearing back to order for the annex and zone wholly the surrounded property owned by Shannon and Krista Manis near the north end of Noble Avenue. We got more guests and visitors. Anyone have public comment on? Second call for comments on the Noble Avenue owned by Shannon and Kristen Mattis. Okay, I'll close the public hearing to annex and zone wholly the surrounding property owned by Shannon and Kristen Mattis near the north end of Noble Avenue. Public hearing is closed. It is 6:58. We'll call our regular order, or meeting to order in about 2 minutes.
We all know Dillon streets in the winter are a nightmare to drive on, but you can make it a dream with a new pre-owned four-wheel drive from Dream Motors. Of January 5th, 2022 to order. It is 7 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the minutes.
Move to approve December 15th public hearing. Move to December 15th public, both hearings and the regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Dan, seconded by Russ to approve the minutes of the 2 public hearings and a regular meeting on December 15th. Any discussion?
So it was brought to our attention because this letter was passed out. We need to make sure this letter was attached to the minutes. Angela and Robert McDonald.
Okay.
They actually presented it at the hearing, but somehow it did not get attached to the hearing. So if we just make sure in the minutes that they was attached, please.
Mr. Graham, did you need to hold my closer, please? I'm sorry. Before she gets on yelling on you.
Question's been called for. All in favor of the minutes as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Take it unanimously, they pass. Next one is the status of the Beaver Red River crossing. Kevin Johnson was supposed to be here tonight, but travel was kind of difficult, so he will be here probably next meeting, he said. I don't know if Todd wants to.
No, it's just that because of travel conditions, he's not able to be here with us tonight. He'd like to be will be here at the next meeting on the 19th, and also presented the information, construction progress report for the month of December that I handed out earlier. That is for your review, and then if you have any questions at the next meeting, when he'll be here.
Any questions of myself or Todd about our water project that we might be able to answer?
Let's get that check cashed.
No, but I've had a lot of offers to buy it from me.
We're gonna make it a project and sell it.
Yeah.
Should have been bid, $500,000 or something.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. Appointment and confirmation of our officers. I appoint and ask the council to approve my appointments. City Clerk, Cammie Horning. Our City Attorney, we do not have one as of yet. Director of Operations, Todd Hazelbaker. Fire Chief, BJ Closey. Police Chief, Don Giverson, and our City Treasurer, Karen Kipp.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved by Dan and approved by Russ.
Who's gonna be your water clerk?
Our water clerk is Serena, what's her last name? I can't think.
Cervelli. Cervelli.
She's been on the job for 3 days now. She seems like she's picking it up fine.
Call for the question.
Question's been called for. All in favor of the city officer, or city officers, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Take it unanimous, approved, so I'll swear him in. Kinda, I guess,
We'll just stand up here.
yeah, they're all 3, 4 right there, Cammie's right there, so right there, yeah. At the end of the meeting, could you make sure you get these signed?
I want my paycheck, apparently, you have to get it.
Raise your hand. I state your name.
I, Todd Hazelbaker,
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support and protect
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Montana,
the Constitution of the State of Montana,
and I will discharge my duties of my office
and I will discharge my duties of the office
with fidelity, so help me God.
with fidelity, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one. City Council appoints the council president.
I move to Don Hand.
Second.
Been moved by Dan and approved, or seconded by Raymond to appoint Don Hand as the council president. Discussion or any other nomination?
I'll make a motion to nominate Mary Jo O'Rourke.
Do we have a second? Okay, the motion did not pass because of no second.
Call for the question then.
Okay, the question's been called for. All in favor of Don Hand as the council president, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So, passes unanimously. Don Hand will be the president of the council.
I'll try to have committee reassignments out for next meeting. I'm gonna shuffle some of the committees around a little bit here, but I'm gonna try to keep at least one current member on each one for the historical part of it, to make sure the committee keep on forward rather than backwards or sideways. So if you find yourself on the same committee you've been on, that's why. Mainly to maintain the sanctity of the committee. Thank you.
And also, because of our new staff up front, we're going to try, I talked to Mayor Clacken, or ex-Mayor Clacken, that before the committees created their own agenda and took their own minutes. Before our new thing, I'm hopefully try to get you guys to take your own minutes and come back and to help the staff up front, the newer staff. So that's going to be one of my requests for you guys as a council. That I'll help you do agendas. I hate the computers, but Mike liked them, so until we get going and we have enough people to take minutes for you guys, I kind of ask you to take your own minutes. I'm gonna kick it around. Next meeting, we'll talk about it. Okay. Number 3, appoint John McGinley to the City County Health Board.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Dan and approved by Don
Whatever.
to appoint myself to the City County Health Board. Any discussion?
Call for the question.
Question's been called for to appoint John McGinley to the City County Health Board. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, the next one. Resolution of intent of the City Council of the City of Dillon to set a hearing date to affirm or establish city fees and set a date for final action.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to request enough time for the appropriate committees to look over this fee schedule, make sure it's still appropriate.
Okay,
Before we go approving it, it seems a shame to approve a fee that isn't, it's either too much or not enough to cover the actual expenses.
yep, that's,
So,
yeah, that's what it is. I think we'll just set a date, but keep it on your radar as you're getting your committees to look at your fees. And then we'll come back and all the data is collected.
thank you.
So it's been moved to establish fees and settings when we have them all collected from our committees. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. We'll start our search for establishing city fees and setting their dates for the final actions.
We may not go to make the 19th, however, if
Yep.
it's in the resolution.
That's when we're going to be appointing the committee, so it'll be a month or two after that. We'll probably sometime in March, we'll call a meeting to set our fees. That'll give him a month and a half or so to look over the fees.
Okay, it's just in here, it's listed as the council will meet on the 19th.
On the resolution.
At 6:45,
Yeah,
So,
we need to modify the
the
resolution.
resolution.
okay,
Or could we just, Mr. Mayor, is it possible for us to just go ahead and set a time for a hearing on our fees in February or the first meeting in March? So we could go ahead and just edit or change the resolution date, but continue with the resolution as presented.
If we change any of the fees on the back, that invalidates it. That's why I'd like to have that done first and then proceed.
so,
So we should actually vote down.
yeah, so we
Yes,
should.
we should
That's why
vote
someone's
down
gonna vote.
this resolution.
Correct.
Yeah, we'll go to the table. So is there a motion to table the resolution to set our fees?
Motion to table, please.
Second.
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned to table the resolution to establish city fees and set a date by Dawn, seconded by Russ. All in favor of tabling it till collect the data we need?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay? It passes unanimously. We'll table it until further data is collected. The next one is the resolution of the City Council of the City of Dillon to adopt and change in the official zoning map on the property located at 10 East Reeder Street from R2 medium density residential zone to a C3 central business district zone.
Move to approve.
Second.
Open it up.
Okay, it's been moved by Dan, seconded by Russ to approve it. We'll open a discussion now.
Is that my cue?
Yep, that's your cue, Mrs. McDonald.
So, can you hear me? Is this on? No.
How's
How's it? How about now? Are we good?
No,
No.
hold it down,
Hold
it down for like 2 seconds.
Now?
There you go.
Awesome, thanks. So I had sent a letter to the zoning, or to the last hearing, because I was unable to attend due to illness, so that it could stand as my comments during public comment for the hearing. But unfortunately, the letter wasn't in the packet, so graciously, the council has agreed to allow it to be entered, and I can read it to you. So thank you. Welcome to the board, the new members. Glad to see you.
Mr. Mayor, did we just attach that to the minutes already?
Yes.
So it's actually in the public record already.
Yes, but did everybody get a chance to read it before voting?
I think the problem is the people that's on Zoom does not have a copy of this letter.
Nor do the
The
public.
only people that received a copy of the letter is the
Tonight.
people here tonight. It was never put in a packet, so it needs to be read so the people on Zoom and the people on Facebook can see it or hear it.
So would you rather use the letter, or would you rather make a statement?
Or, Mr. President, I think that she could read the letter, and then we can address it tonight.
Yes,
Just make a statement.
but you can only do one, but not two. By the rules of the operator. She can either make a statement, or she can read the letter. Not both.
Her statement can be the letter.
That's true.
She can
That's-
read the
yes,
letter,
that's
she
right.
can read the letter into the record.
Yes, that's fine, that's fine.
So it's my choice,
Yes,
is what you're saying?
yes.
Okay. I will try and just read the letter, basically. My comments are that the property in question is 100% surrounded by our residential properties. The only C3 is actually across the street and down Montana Street. In 2020, my husband and I purchased the home, and one of the deciding factors was that it was not a C3. It had just in 2.5 years, 3 years prior, been changed to an R2, which from an investment perspective, zoning helps me to make financial decisions that will be good for the long term for myself and my family. And this was definitely a large investment. And I've never really understood how a zoning issue can come up when you don't even have a reason for doing it, except I enjoyed it before, I'd like to enjoy it again, and that was a quote. Whereas if there was a project in mind that had a viable benefit to those of us that are around that particular property, we would love to hear it. We don't feel comfortable as homeowners with the unknown of a possible, don't worry about it right now because I'm not going to do anything. As an investor, that's not sound criteria for a zoning request. And we would just like, my family, for you all to take into consideration the fact that that property is 100% surrounded by our residences before you make your final vote. Thank you.
like to respond to that. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, Chance, go ahead.
I think I was a bit misquoted on what I said there, and I'd like to also add that as far as from an investment standpoint, if you bought solely because you were in a residential district, you failed to look across the street, which you have a much better view of those properties than you do of my property. I never did say that I enjoyed it before and I enjoyed it again. I'm trying to protect my nest egg there the same as you are, and I absolutely have no interest in doing anything to harm your property value. So I just want to correct the record that I was misquoted, and also add that this went to the zoning board 2 months ago, and it met all of the criteria for a zoning change but one. So I just want to be affirmative on what was actually said and some of the facts around the zoning that's around my property.
Thanks, Chance. State your name and address.
Angela MacDonald, 303 South Idaho, and actually I wasn't quoting Mr. Bernard, it was in his letter that he presented to the zoning committee. Those were his words.
You're taking completely what I said out of context then.
Sandra, I see you were getting up earlier, so.
Sandra Berry, 345 South Idaho Street. It's hard when you're not in the living situation that we residents are, to imagine or be threatened by a loss of your investment when you put so much work, time, my life investment in a property, and have no idea of what could happen, which is a very congested C3 possible happening. It's not just what could happen now, it could happen with a new owner. And what does that mean? In dollars and cents, sometimes that helps dollars and cents. I had a couple of realtors view my property that is on two sides of this property to determine what the value of the property was. And then after that, I said, if there was, which one the idea some 5 months ago it would be sheds, storage sheds, or apartment housing next to the fence basically. How would that affect this value? And we're talking about, well, one realtor said half. I can't afford that kind of loss. And if it is determined to be C3, how can the zoning committee protect me as a residential owner with my property? I lost that protection. It's really a big deal, and it's only, right now it's listed as it is a commercial property. In 2005, it was built as a civic center. It's not always been business. It was gravitating, as the whole area was, toward more and more, less and less commercial and more residential. So this is very threatening in a very real dollar and cents way. And I don't know where the protection would come. The concern of what I've been building over a long period of time. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
And I have a question. Chance Bernal said that it met all criteria except one. What was that criteria that it didn't meet? Anyone on zoning know the answer to that?
Chance, are you still on?
Yep, I've got you. I'm having a hard time hearing though.
Can you tell us what criteria you weren't able to meet?
I cannot remember that off the top of my head, and I don't have my notes in front of me, but it should be in the minutes from the zoning meeting that night.
We aren't privy to those minutes at this time. That's why I was asking.
I don't have in front of me either right here. There's what, I want to say close to 10 or 11 criteria. Close to that. And when it was read through, it met all of the criteria but one, if my memory serves me correctly.
Well, while we're looking for the minutes, I would like to talk on this subject. I was actually chairman of the zoning commission when the zoning commission rezoned that down there to C2 R3, R2 down there. And when we did that, we worked on it a long time. The reason that was really changed was because there was an issue with parking requirements. When you get down into a C3 zone, they had a parking requirement, which basically said, and I'll use Sarah Sweetwater Coffee because that's what brought up the concern. When she moved into that place, in order to her legally to have a business in there and meet the parking requirements in C3, she would have to tear down 2 buildings next to her to get enough room to have parking. And so we actually took the parking requirements out of C3. And when we did that, we made that residential area down there, which was all residential except for 2 businesses at that time. That was Barry Briggs and Chance's building down there. And so we made them all R2, or R2, I guess it was down there. But we actually changed the rules down there so businesses were not hindered by Bill to change the business. We made it so he can put any kind of business he wants in that building. He can't increase the footprint of the building or anything like that, but he can change to any business he wants in that building. And we changed the zoning just for that reason. So people that was included in the residential area out there, and we took them out of commercial and residential, could continue their businesses for realistically forever until the rules change. And so he's really not burdened. He can put a restaurant in there if he wants to. He can put any kind of business he wants inside that building so long as it's a legal business in the city of Dillon. And we worked hard and long hours to get this straightened around. And I really hope that the council will vote not to change it and leave it the way it is, because if we change it, one of the downfalls is going to be you will be a C3 building. He can build property line to property line, will not have to have no parking requirements at all. And that's one issue I have about changing that C3 to C3. C3 has no parking requirements. And so, and there is no building, I mean, you can build on, in a commercial C3 zone, you can build property line to property line. And so if we change that to C3, he can, and I don't know whether if he has any plans at all or what, but I just think that if he wants to do something different that's not allowed now, there's always a chance of him going for a variance, going to the Board of Adjustments and asking for a hardship. I don't know what, but I just think that it's best suited right now if it stays in R2 zone, because he can, like I said, he can realistically, he can change his business to anything he wants to put in.
Raymond, when we went through that before, I guess I got some questions on that grandfather clause, if you will. I mean, 1 minute it says it sounds like I can put whatever business there I want, but yet I'm subject to parking restrictions. So which is it? Does the current zoning of residential bear weight or does it not? the language that's in the zoning document on the grandfather clause is super ambiguous. I offered that night with the city attorney standing there, I said, put it in writing that I can do that and I'll leave. You know, I'll leave the meeting. I mean, it's absolutely not clear. We still wouldn't be here today.
Right. Well, what the zoning
In
document,
one breath, you're telling me I can do whatever I want, but yet you can't change it because I might not have enough parking. Like, don't bring parking into it. I have more parking than anybody in that zone. Parking's not an issue there. The facts are is that that's always been used as a business. Everybody that bought there that spoke out in opposition of it bought subject to it being a business. You talk about property values being hurt, I'm the only one that's being hurt. We've talked about spot zoning. We've got an opinion from your own city attorney that said it's not spot zoning. And I promise you the better case can be made that I was the one that spot zoned. So I'd just like to know what it was, and I mean, if I can do whatever I want, great, but that's honestly really not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for my business to have a business designation and not be zoned residential. My property is absolutely not conducive towards residential. And furthermore, since I've owned it, I've done anything but hurt people's property values down there. I've brought that building up to code, got it finished, so all this stuff is just, it's not based in fact. You people come in and they talk about, oh, I bought here because I wanted to be near any businesses? Really? Look across the street. I mean, none of this makes any sense. I guess I'd just like some clarification. If that was your guys' intent for the grandfather clause, why did it get to the paper in a couple of sentences that nobody can give me an opinion whether or not it's gonna, you know, actually hold water or not?
okay, well, the grandfather clause says that, and I don't have it right off the top of my head, but it basically says that you can, if you change businesses, the change of use permit will not be based on what kind of business you put in there, which means you can put any business in there you want. The only thing is you cannot increase, you can't build a bigger building, and you can't increase the parking, but you already have, what, 45 parking spaces down there? I mean, I'm just guessing off the top of my head. So I can't see any business. To me, the most restrictive business there is a restaurant, and I use that for an example. And I think you'd have probably twice as many parking spaces down there as you would need for a restaurant. I would hope that if that ever changes into another business of some kind, that it would be realistically a doctor's office or something like that, but I mean, medicals, but a restaurant would work down there and you'd have plenty of parking spaces for that. And that, to me, I think that's the most restrictive use that would be down there for a restaurant. And as I read the zoning, that you can change it to a restaurant because you'd upper and change. And again, if something happens and you do need to build the building bigger, I would think that you could go to the zoning board, get denied, go to the Board of Adjustments, state your case for a hardship. And if it's a legitimate thing, I can't see why they would not give you a hardship exemption and let you add on to the building if you need it.
You have is the city attorney there tonight?
No.
Don't have the city attorney there. I mean, there's no attorney in the land that's gonna look at that language in the zoning board and say that I can, or in the zoning document and say that I can do whatever I want. I mean, that is just, otherwise I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be at this point right now. And to say that I should just rely on being able to go back to the zoning board and the Board of Adjustments, I mean, anybody that's been at these meetings, this has been going on for months. I mean, we've delayed this for 2 months because we can't get a quorum. So I'm really not, I guess, you know, wanting to go back through that. I mean, you guys have taken something that I've groomed into being a business that was zoned commercial when I bought it and spot zoned it. I mean, that's the better case here. I'm quite certain of that.
Mr. Mayor? Yeah. I was at each and every one of those meetings for Mr. Brunel asking the zoning commission to approve changing his designation from an R2 to a C3. But I was also there at each and every meeting that started 6 years ago, 7 years ago, to change that whole area into an R2. That was done with, with incredible amount of study and thoughtfulness. And Mr. Brunel was part of that process. And that was completed, and it was zoned to R2. I would hope that the city council would trust their own zoning commission, that they put in the time and the work and the thoughtfulness into that decision, and to not knee-jerk it into a different decision 2 years down the line. We worked on that. Sandra probably has a better history of it, but it was close to 7 or 8 years, correct, Sandra?
Actually, I think altogether it was about 18 years. We
Okay.
had 18 years before it finally was completed. It was a long task, a lot of work, a lot of
And-
went into it.
Yeah, and in the end, the 2 businesses that were included in that area, both of those business owners were here. They were right here in the room.
I was
And,
opposed to it then, and I'm opposed to it now. And if it took 18 years to get that done, Mary Jo, I'm certainly not gonna just trust that I can go back to a board of adjustments when I want to do something.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And I agree with you, we should listen to the zoning commission, because 2 months ago they voted to pass this. Checked all the boxes but one, so we need to separate out the emotion from the fact. I'm not gonna do anything to hurt anybody's property value. I'm the only one in this conversation to date whose property value stands to get hurt.
Call for the question?
Wait a second, I got something to say, and, I think Chance Banal himself probably would not do anything to hurt the property owners around him. But who's to say that he can't sell it down the road, and whomever buys it will take advantage of it. So, with that thought in mind, and plus, I haven't heard an answer as to the criteria it didn't make. Therefore, I am opposed to this.
Have you found it yet?
In looking at the findings of fact, it was consistent with, it's consistency with the city's growth plan. It's consistent with that. Conformed with the design, secure safety from fire and other dangers. Designed to promote public health, public safety, and general welfare. The current buildings, businesses promote those. Any future development or expansion of current businesses in the area will need to meet the state Montana requirements, international building codes, fire codes, and floodplain regulations. Designed to facilitate the adequate provisions of transportation, water, sewage, schools, parks, and other public requirements. They conform at this time, but again, any future development would require a review of proposed plans of development, conform to the reasonable provisions of adequate light and air, the effect on motorized and non-motorized transportation systems. One of the concerns is that there's only one public access, that's Reeder Street, as well as the transportation system. If a new business were to go in, they would have to look at the parking situation through zoning, promotes urban growth, and the character district has peculiar suitability for particular uses. The character of the area is commercial with established businesses. The area could be limited for any particular use based upon transportation system, floodplain requirements, and adjoining residential area, and conserving the value of buildings and encouraging the most appropriate use of land throughout the jurisdictional area. The most appropriate use of the land and conserving the value of buildings throughout the jurisdictional area would be to encourage the continued use for the current businesses with a continued appreciation for the surrounding residential area.
Thank you.
So the question's been called for. All in favor of the resolution of the City Council of the City of Dillon to adopt a change in the resolution in the official zoning map on the property located at 10 East Street from an R2 medium density residential zone to a C3 central business zone, signify by saying aye. All opposed, nay?
Nay.
Okay, sounds like the motion failed unanimously. So it looks like they'll say it as R2 for now. Okay. Next one, the resolution of the City Council of the City of Dillon to adopt a change in the official zoning map on the potato cellar area properties from an unzoned area to a C2 community business district.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, been moved by Russ, seconded by Diane to approve. Discussion.
I have some concerns about this. For one thing, the C2 doesn't cover some of the dangerous chemicals or possibility of dust explosions and things like that. And we read that at the hearing, that it didn't meet any of that with C3 or C2. And I'm thinking this should go back to zoning and maybe, I don't know, and I haven't been in zoning for a long time, but don't we have an industrial park designation thing? And maybe it would fit that better than instead of, I mean, the way that the C2 is I'm concerned, is maybe one of these property owners down the road want to sell the property and somebody else comes in and wants to do something else. And I think the C2 will affect the price value of their property or their business. And I just think I don't think it's a good deal here, because I don't think it meets some of the C2 criteria, for one.
We actually looked at some of the industrial zones, and there isn't nothing down there that would fit into an industrial zone.
Well, I mean, what I'm asking, I guess, is maybe we could search out and see what other cities are doing with areas of that nature, because it doesn't fit.
Right. We actually tried that too. We did a search and we actually found a zone that would work for down there, and we had our first public hearing and it met with such opposition that that's all the further it made. We couldn't even make it past the first public hearing. I mean, everybody was against it.
Opposition from
Everybody,
everybody.
just, well, I should say everybody, because it was going to be called a,
ABR.
yeah,
ABS.
Yes.
which took into account for the grain elevators and everything that was down there. And we actually found another city who had a zone like that, and we tried to run it through, and then it just, out there, it wasn't very pretty.
Mr. Mayor, am I allowed to pass these out during
discussion?
Ooh,
No.
no, you know, we can't take him into account.
You can read them.
table and you can grab them on the way out?
They just read it.
being sarcastic.
No, well, the problem is, and there's been a court case evidently, I didn't have a chance the newspaper people actually brought it up. People bringing documents in to be using during a discussion. Not everybody's had the equal opportunity to look at them.
Understood.
If there's people on Zoom that wants to look at them, or people on there, they don't get the resource to look at it, and so you can read them into the record. if you want, or, I mean, I don't know, or maybe do a highlight of them or something. You see, the issue is there's people who might be interested in this and they won't have a chance to see the documents.
Sure. So Kent Graham, owner, East Bench Crane, 30 East Clark Street. Mr. and I and Mr. Graham just did a nice review of exactly the road we've been down since 2016, in case anybody's wondering. And you are correct. The M2, M1, there's some items that don't fit there. The C2, as Mr. Knight pointed out, does not fit there. So what I took the time to do, Mr. Hazelbaker had originally researched the ABS section. There's no reason that the hot topics on the ABS could not be deleted. All of the current property owners are in agreement with that. And the hot topics, I believe, Mary Jo, were the fertilizer, correct?
I think that was a big issue.
Yes.
I think it was the only issue on the ABS.
I'd have to look back on my notes.
So I've taken the liberty of reviewing over that ABS section again. We can look at deleting that, whatever the legal process is for me to get this in front of you guys. I will take those appropriate steps. It is my recommendation that the council table this at this time. We send this option back to the zoning commission to take a look at it, and it is a very workable solution for all of the property owners and all of the residents in regards to what's been deleted off the original ABS that Mr. Hazelbaker had found in regards to the fertilizer and not being able to store that. It still allows all of the bulk fuel operations to operate as is without affecting property value. It allows Mr. Schuett and his grain operation. It allows myself and our grain operation, and allows Mr. Cottom his operation to, whether that's continued storage, whether that's agricultural use. It covers all of it. I don't think it will qualify as, I heard the term earlier, something zoning specific. What was it? Thank you. It will not qualify as spot zoning because this area has the history of these activities since the inception of the town. You know, it's been agriculture from day one. Where I sit right now is the old stockyards. So, somebody educate me when we get a chance of how these documents need to get in front of the council and Mr. Mayor. And I've made the copies, they're ready to go. But it is my recommendation, our recommendation as property owners, that this gets tabled, gets sent back to the zoning commission, this gets reviewed, and we go through the process. Yep, we've been at it for 7 months, or 7 years, sorry. A few more months to get it done right are well worth the time and effort. Thank you for your time.
I would actually make a motion that we do table this and send it back.
Second that.
Does you have to withdraw his motion first to approve it?
What's the present motion on the?
The present motion right now was to approve this.
So I believe you wanted to
Approve.
deny that.
But there was a motion
Then
to
send it
table, correct? Motion to table overrides.
Okay, there's been a motion to table this and send back to zoning from Raymond, seconded by Dan. Any other discussion? Okay, well, all in favor of sending this back, or tabling it and sending it back to the zoning commission, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay? Motion carried to send it back to zoning unanimously.
If you would give them to Mr. Hazelbaker.
Yep.
He can make copies and put them in the next.
Copies are made.
He can put them in the zoning packet.
Okay.
And I guess if you want all the council, you can go ahead and pass them out too. If you want everybody to read them.
I can now? Yep. Yes? I want to go to prison.
Orange isn't your color.
No, it's not.
But we can use them in the discussion. I'll just wait.
If you need one, you can give us,
We're gonna make it. That tech engineering degree is paying off.
okay, on to reports of officers on the Board of Cities.
I'll give you a copy. I apologize.
Tuesday night at 7.
Library board, it's, council member is vacant. Lori's not here, but I was on there, so I ask you guys to approve the minutes of the October 26th meeting and the November 23rd meeting.
Move to accept.
Second.
Been moved by Dan, seconded by Russ to accept the minutes of the library board from October 26th and November 23rd. All in favor? Aye. All opposed, nay? Passes unanimously. City attorney, we do not have one at this time. I've talked to a couple, so hopefully by next meeting, we'll have one in front of you to approve.
How are we coming on finding an attorney to resume the 2 cases? Have we found anyone to take over them 2 cases?
The one I talked to, we said, because Mr. Dolan said we have, Beaverhead County, we have to have someone in place by the 21st. That's why our next meeting is the 19th. She will start anytime, and that's would be her first, make public that that's her first thing. She has to let the court know that she's in charge.
Right.
She went up to Debbie's office and looked, and all you have to do is says, I am the attorney for the city.
Right.
And then she has time to do the
If
rest.
we ought to schedule a special meeting to get her going on that as soon as possible.
Because I'm looking at another one, so if she's the one, that's what her question is, do I need the extra time? So she said the next meeting would be enough time, because all she has to go to the court says, I'm the attorney for the city taking over this case. And then she has time to do all that work.
Okay.
And I'll stay in touch, and if we do, I'll contact you all and we'll call a special meeting to
And
appoint
we've got
her.
another case that's in front of the district court, or was in front of the district court on the appeal. I don't know if you can talk
Miss
about
Rosie,
that.
are you?
With, Mr. Stewart and the water.
Yeah, she knows, we talked about, with one we interviewed about that, and Deb's kind of filled her in on it.
Okay,
So, they're both,
okay, because they're both kind of time sensitive.
yeah.
But, okay.
So that's last night, they said they had enough time if we did it at the next city council meeting. If not, by the end of this week, next week, I'll decide who I want, and if they think they need it earlier, I'll call, put out a meeting, get a hold of all you, and have a special 15-minute meeting to appoint.
Right, well, I'd just like to get it going as soon as
Yeah,
possible.
so do I. Planning board, Dawn Hand.
We've been doing quite a bit of work on Beaver Pride, and which you'll see in the packet here a little farther down the way. We've got a meeting tomorrow night, Mr. Hazebaker?
Yes.
Let's come up. We'll take care of things there and do some more CIP stuff as well. So that completes my report unless somebody's got a question.
Any questions? Okay. Zoning Commission, Raymond Graham, Russ Swan.
Go ahead, buddy.
Thanks, Russ. Okay, well, before you, you'll see our minutes for November 9th and November 14th. I ask for your approval.
Move to accept.
Second.
It's been moved by Dan and approved by Diane to accept the minutes. All the minutes?
Yes.
Yep, of all the minutes for the zoning commission. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay?
Okay, as you can see, we've been working on some more zoning issues, and tonight, we ask for you to accept the finding of facts and staff report for the Dillon Implement Company Incorporated property.
Move to accept.
Second.
Been moved by Dan and seconded by Diane to accept the finding from facts of the Dillon Implement Company property. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passed unanimously.
And we ask you to accept the finding of facts and staff report for the Joseph property. I don't know how close I am to that.
Hinojosa.
Hinojosa. I apologize, I'm not
That's why I passed.
very good.
Move to accept.
Second.
It's been moved by Dan and seconded by Mary Jo to accept the finding the facts and staff report of the Hindu Isho property. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, nay? Motion passed unanimously.
Okay, that concludes my minutes. Any
Except
questions?
November,
November. Public
November
hearing.
16th public hearing.
Yeah.
Public hearing.
Public hearing minute, or
Oh, I'm sorry. I asked for your approval of the November 16th public hearing minutes.
Move to accept.
Second.
it's been moved by Dan, seconded by Diane to accept the November 16th, 2021 public hearing minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, well, that will conclude my report unless there's any further questions. Thank you.
Director of Operation, Mr. Hazelbaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few things. Hopefully we get the Christmas lights down at the end of this week or next week. It just depends on the weather. We're waiting for it to be 40 degrees in the morning, but not sure that's going to happen for a while. I'd like to reach out and a big thank you to Karen Kipp and Officer Pedersen for their help in delivering meals a couple of weeks ago. We found ourselves in a kind of difficult situation that, with the bus driver, or not the bus driver, Chris having some health issues, and they volunteered to help ride with her to help her through it, with Officer Pedersen and Mrs. Kipp, so we greatly appreciate them stepping up and helping. Something that's coming up that we'll have to do this month and first part of the next month is, I know how much you're starting to get used to them, but we're going to have another public hearing for the transportation plan. Then we do that every year, the first part of January, so that'll be coming down the road. We had also, just real quick report on the bus, we had 1,200 more riders this year than we did last year. And that's due to COVID and restrictions going away. So 1,200 is a great increase. And what we found interesting, most of that increase came from 59 and younger. We had about 1,000 more in the 59 and younger group riding the bus, so that's good. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is the second basketball hoop ever gonna get put back up at City Park?
That's one of the projects that's going on right now.
I know it's been going on since last year.
Yep, but this is one of those nice winter projects that we can do and get done, and then when spring springs, we can get that up and going.
I was afraid it fell through the cracks.
Nope.
Thank you.
Any other?
Mr. Mayor, I was just thinking in terms of making everything a little bit more efficient. Is it possible, Todd, to do the transportation public hearing and the fees public hearing at the same time?
No, because we have to have the transportation plan turned in by the end of February.
Okay.
So we have to have a public hearing, then we have to have a meeting to approve the minutes,
Okay.
and so, yeah. It'd be nice if we could work that way, but it's a timing thing.
Would you like us to set a date for that public hearing?
It's gonna be the next meeting.
Okay. Great, thank you.
At 6:45,
6:45.
or probably, if you want to go 6:55, that would probably work as well.
Any other questions for Mr. Hazelbaker? Okay.
Go, Chris.
So, Mr. Mayor, I move that we set the next meeting at 6:55, a time for a public hearing on transportation.
Second. Okay, it's been moved to set public hearing for transportation at 6:55, our next meeting, the 19th of January. Been moved by Mary Jo, seconded by Raymond. All in favor?
Hold on,
Oh.
I've got discussion here.
Okay, discussion.
I think that's up to the mayor to put on,
I think so.
not by us. And besides that, I think we think that, 5 minutes isn't gonna be good. That would be the meeting that all of a sudden we have a lot of people here. So I think you better think a little more closely as to, or rethink at the time that you wanna have that meeting, or that hearing,
I think in the transportation plan, past public hearings, the most we've had is one person, and that's usually Glenn Moran's the bus driver.
Yes.
But no, I understand your concern.
We'll probably set it 15 minutes early, at least. 6:45.
But I still think it's the mayor's decision to put that on.
Sorry if I overstepped my boundaries.
Been put on because we need to have it finished by February, so.
So I would amend my motion to say that the meeting would be on the 19th at 6:45.
I think we just can do withdrawal.
Yeah, I think it should be withdrawal. We're gonna have it on. It's kind of, I set the agenda.
I thought all public hearings had to be approved by the city council.
I think you can make a motion to direct the mayor to put it on the agenda for the next meeting. That would be safer.
I think so too, yeah. Because it seems like the only public hearings we actually approved had resolutions attached to
Yeah.
it. Now that I think about it.
So this won't have a resolution
No.
connected to it?
No.
No, it's just a public hearing, if I remember right.
Yep, just public hearing.
Is it to have people come in and tell us how much they like the bus? Is that correct?
Yep.
Yep.
Move the table.
Okay, been moved to table by Dawn. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Diane. We're gonna table the motion to put the transportation on the next agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously.
You understood I did your work.
Okay, next one, Police Department, Chief Giberson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have any report this month, I'll have the December for next meeting. We did hire a new law enforcement liaison. She's working out very well. Daniel Dames, her name. Randy Braddock's been very nice in helping us train her. She's doing really good. She's way above where I thought she'd be at this point. So we do have we were busy through December. We'll have a lot of court testimony this month. We had a lot of trials, just catching up, I think, from probably COVID. They're putting everything on the docket now. And yeah, so I had down in my notes that Eric Pedersen helped with the Deals on Wheels. I think some people were a little surprised when the cop car showed up at their house. But it was nice. I think he had fun. He's a pretty social guy. So there's been a lot of tournaments, a lot of things going on, stretching us a little thin with our numbers and stuff. But it's all going pretty well, and we're full staff, and things are going very well. Our Assistant Chief Alvarez is keeping the patrol line and everything moving pretty good. So I think we're in good shape right now. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Didn't you have a training exercise in Dillon?
A training exercise? Yeah, well, it wasn't an exercise, but yeah, we had a training here, Sovereign Citizens.
Oh, that's
So, yeah, Beaver Head County, the sheriff's office actually put it on. And so, we paid to go, but it was a really good training, especially for the way today's society is and stuff. And, it was a reasonable cost because everybody was here. With that being said, too, is I spoke to Dan Cahill today. He's a retired deputy chief out of Anaheim, California. He lives here. And we're trying to work something out to where he can bring his expertise too and do some training that's post-certified in Dillon. So maybe cutting some of that cost and bringing some training here that we probably wouldn't get because of pretty isolated from a lot of the state, and everything seems to, just like everything else in Montana, seems to centered on Helena. But I think that, we're in the infancy stages of this, but I think as the year goes by, we'll have some more concrete plans. I think he came to me about it, and I appreciate that, and I think it'll work out good.
Can you give us a brief overview of what sovereign citizen is? I think I know what it is, but I'm not sure I'm thinking the same thing.
Yeah, so the brief overview is without hurting anybody's feelings, I think basically what a sovereign citizen is they claim that they do not belong to a government, therefore they don't have to follow the rules, the regulations, anything that has to do with government entities. So I think, there's obviously different temperatures, different gauges of that. But we dealt with it a few years back, as you remember, the whole Freeman situation kind of sparked this sovereign citizen kind of deals where people wouldn't pay for license plates. They're putting fictitious plates on. You'd walk up to them, they wouldn't give you any information. They said they were a sovereign citizen, so anything we officers did or said didn't apply to them because they're a sovereign citizen. Now that's on the extreme level, but there are different levels of it. So that's kind of what the training said, and give us information on what you can and can't do with them, and how long you can hold them until you identify. So there was just a lot of that, and it has become a bigger issue just in the recent couple of years. So, but yeah, that's in a nutshell, that's what it is.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Chief Giverson?
Thank you guys.
Fire Department, Fire Chief Kosey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do not have a report this month. I will have it on the next meeting. The paperwork has been put in. I don't have the final numbers for the year for the fire department, but it looks somewhere in the 270 plus range, which is up roughly 150 from our averages.
Do you have to take your telephones away?
Excuse me?
You have to take your telephones away?
I'll second that.
Any other questions from Chief Kosey?
Something that will come down the pipe here is a fire we had on West Helena Street. It was on Saturday, it was on Sunday, and it was on Tuesday. If anybody would like to talk to me about it in private, that would be fine. I'm sure it will come up in the next meeting or two.
Why don't you go ahead and give us a synopsis?
It was a very difficult house. We got called to a trailer house on fire. The trailer sits right directly underneath the power line. The disconnect was in the back of the property. The Northwest Energy had to access the disconnect through a different neighbor's yard. The gas disconnect was located right next to the trailer house that was on fire. That was the gas disconnect for the trailer and a adjacent house there. The yard was full of, there was a couple of vehicles there, there was firewood, there was a pile of stuff, let's just put it that way.
Well, let's say what it is.
What's that?
Say what it is.
What it is, well, what my opinion and what, I'm not gonna say it's stuff. It's like, I've always told my wife that my daughter's things are not junk because they are her things. So it is stuff. There is a lot of belongings, I guess we can call it belongings. There was biological waste in buckets in the backyard. So creating a health hazard to the community. I've had a couple of my firefighters who are volunteers said they would not go back to such place. and I cannot force them, I cannot ask them in good conscience to either. So we need to probably address this going forward sooner than later. And I know that it has been brought up. I think it was in zoning, or no, it was
Judiciary.
health and welfare, okay.
No. Judiciary, then it went to fire and order.
Okay. So it's been all over, concerning the ordinances. And I think we probably should get on them ordinances and get after them and get it done, because right now, there's not a lot of, direction to go. You know, we don't have a lot of, a good vehicle to address this situation.
The one trailer house was destroyed in totality, wasn't it?
Excuse me?
Was the one trailer house destroyed in totality?
Yes.
So it only has 30 to 45 days of consider before it has to be removed by some point.
45 by city code,
Okay.
yep. This could, so they have 45 days by ordinance, but if a person doesn't have the means to get that out of there in 45 days, what is the vehicle, what is the city gonna do? You
You
know,
hire a contractor to go in and clean it up and build the land on it.
okay, all right,
At least that's always been my understanding how it works.
yeah. So,
I believe Mr. Dolan one time was asked about his recollection was the same.
and I'm fairly certain that it did end up on his desk at one point in time. Don't know what happened from there, but I just know that there are a few places in town that are of the same state, I guess if you'll call it that this one is. And for the safety, the well-being of the community, and the pride of the community, I guess if you will. If not a better term than pride, we need to do something about it. We need to figure out a good way, a good equitable solution for everybody.
So it sounds like you're advocating for a clean up your stuff type law.
I would like something like that. It's for everybody's health and safety. You know, safety is the big thing. I had the next door neighbor, they were gone. They came back, their boat had been moved, they didn't know what was going on, and then they looked in the daylight, and, you know, this trailer house was probably 6 feet or 8 feet from the side of their garage. And all of his parents' belongings that had just passed away were in that garage. And so they went out of their way to thank us for saving the garage and saving all of their family heirlooms and things. There's another trailer house in the back of that in the back of that lot. And on the other side of that are quite a few trailer houses, and they're spaced appropriately. But had the wind been blowing a little harder from a different direction, or had it been the night before when it was below zero, things could have been a whole lot different, because we could have trucks freezing up. We're just very lucky that Northwestern Energy was there to get the power. They had to wait for a little while to get the power shut off and the gas, because couldn't get to it. There was fire on every side of that house, and there was no way to get them to it until we knocked the fire down, so.
I would think it's a little dangerous running a fire hose around the hot wire, isn't it?
It's not a good thing.
Especially with 7,200 volts. You might get hot water in a hurry.
Normally it is our practice to not spray anything under a power line. We had no choice. So,
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to propose a three-pronged approach to this problem. Ask health and welfare, judicial. We'll use those two to start with. Come up with something that works within their bounds let's bring them together and combine them so everybody gets taken care of. Maybe this project has gone on too long, too many people have done it, I suppose. And we got lucky, we got a good fire department, they did a good job. And I'm really grateful for that. And these same, if I'm thinking the same properties as you are, I'm sure I am, these individuals have done this for a long time, and they've been asked to change, and they haven't, so maybe we need some kind of ordinance to go along with that to allow that change to occur, forcibly if necessary.
I agree. Well,
We had a groundwork to do one, and that's what we were working on in health and welfare.
Well, it's time to dust it off.
We brought one to the council and it was decided against.
If I may too, is just as a, I guess, a hint, so to speak, is I think what really, Chief Close and I have talked about before is the mechanism that we need is what do we do after they're ticketed, after they're, told a million times and they just don't do it. There has to be, a mechanism on what we can do as a city and what we can afford on removing the property ourselves. And I think that really encapsulates the job of the city attorney.
Right.
I think when we do bring a new city attorney in, I think that needs to be one of their top priorities is to make sure that we're doing the process correctly, because you can file liens against property if they're not, paying certain bills or on their tax, and I'm not sure about that. I was just kind of made aware a little bit about that is putting it on their taxes and the lien comes after. But that's definitely a question for, a city attorney, and I think that needs to be one of the top priorities, because I agree with Chief Post. There's some problems, and they've been problems. It just, we just haven't been able to deal, not that people haven't tried, we just haven't been able to get to that sweet spot of what we can afford and what we can do. And so I think that's going to be important for the next city attorney to really tackle.
I think that'd be an excellent third prong to report.
that was one of our questions when we were talking to the attorneys.
Well, it was a pretty good, where the hangup was is what we needed to do so we could go in there and remove it. That was the issue we had hanging up, and that's what we needed. We were gonna have the attorney done correctly. Nobody liked the way it was in there. They didn't think it was clear enough on the rights of the person to go to court, and that's what we needed to figure out the proper language. And I think the ordinance we had laid out was a pretty good ordinance. Where the hangup was is how to enforce it. And that's where we need a lawyer to write it down so it works.
Would the weed ordinance be a guideline?
What's that?
Maybe, I don't know. See, if you recall, the issue was how do you enforce taking this guy's property?
Right.
And that's what we're gonna have to do here.
I think we don't need to reinvent the wheel. I think we look at Anaconda, I think we look at Sydney, I think we look at a bunch of towns that are close to our same size, and look and see, are they what Dillon wants to be? Do we want to look like this other community? Are they something to strive to? And talk to their city director or whoever, take a look at their ordinance. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. The wheel is out there. And I think if we just find the right one and put a couple of our Dillon nuances in it, I think we're fine.
I think, Mr. Mayor, we did that. The Judiciary Committee did that. We worked on it for, I don't know what, Raymond, 9 months? And we looked at Hamilton and Anaconda and East Helena and Red Lodge, and we came up with a really good ordinance. And in the end of, I think you all probably remember reading that ordinance, it would say, okay, so if you're ticketed, then you have 15 days to come into the Director of Operations, and then to come up with a plan to mitigate, to clean up your area. And then that plan has to be approved by the Director of Operations, and then you have 30 days to do X, Y, and Z, and then you have 45 days. I mean, it was a very good ordinance that laid out a procedure for not penalizing people, but giving them boundaries within which they needed to work to clean up a hazardous noxious situation. I agree that we probably need to Zoom with one of their director of operations for how is it, then they go the next step.
Right, that's where the holdup was the next step. And so that's, hopefully we get a city attorney that we can work with, and he will say, here's the next step.
Have a little bit on our agenda, let's get going, as soon as we get an attorney to it. We'll find all these old ordinances and see if they can work.
Well, it's on the fire and order.
Fire and order has it, yeah.
But, like I said, we're in between administration changes, so now we're going through. If you recall, the next fire and order committee, we actually wanted to try to get the state fire marshal down to help us with some of the issues that's here already. So there might be some issues that they can take care of themselves now.
Right.
That's what we're hoping, if you recall that last conversation we had 1 month ago.
Yeah. I know for a fact that he will be down on, the state fire marshal's office will be down on January 18th. And if he needs to stay over till the 19th, he said he would. We've got an inspection up at the college and a few other things that he and I are going over. But he said if he needed to stay down overnight on the 18th, he would. So, right now, you know, I was looking through the ordinance that are in play right now. And there's a lot of good stuff in here. And it's got a lot of potential, but, you know, it stops with, you know, you can give them a $100 ticket. You can give them a $100 ticket. So it doesn't give any remedy to the situation.
BJV wrote a new one after
Yes,
that.
I know that, but I'm saying the current one could be a very useful tool if it had just a couple of little.
I think that's a problem with a lot of some of the ordinances that we deal with. We didn't have any teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And we, working with the city attorney, a lot of times we couldn't get a definite answer. And that's why it ends up like it is.
Right,
And
right. And I
somebody's
remember that
afraid
meeting as
to
well.
do something and because of all the legal crap that goes on with some of this stuff. And that's kind of why we ended up where we did.
Yeah. The second somebody gets hurt is what is really going to change things.
Yeah.
And we had that potential the other night. You know,
I mean,
hate
there's
to
a
say
lot of things
but-
that we need to put teeth into,
Yeah.
but we didn't have the proper legal way to do it.
Right.
And that's what we need, is guidance with how we can legally do what we need to do.
Right. I know that Great Falls, if there is a structure fire, they do not allow, they don't allow access to that for concern of carcinogens. And then for it to be habitable again, it needs to have an inspection by the plumber, by the electrician. And so that, something like that would also help us in these situations. But it's not going to, we have two properties right now, one over by Wayland Tire that burned a few years back. And right now, we don't have anything, any stipulations to say that they can't move right back in there.
So, EJ, would this be appropriate then to make a motion to ask the mayor to put the state fire marshal on the agenda on the 19th and present some of these questions?
Probably
again?
not no, probably not. Because he's gonna be here the 18th and he'll probably be leaving early in the day on the 19th. If somebody wanted to talk to him, I can direct him, or we can get on a conference call with maybe a couple of different committees or whatever. When you have a meeting, let me know and I'll get him to phone in.
So you wouldn't be here for the meeting?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm lucky to have him for a day and a half.
Okay.
Any other questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. City Court, Judge Minor. Let's see, we have
I just want to welcome all the new faces, especially the new appointees, and say hello. And if I may respectfully request that I can be added to the next meeting on the 19th, so I can resume some reports and give you guys year-end statistics. I can just tell you as a preview, we're about what were you, 175 up, BJ? We're about 175 down in the court. So he went up in cases, we went down in cases. But I will fully explain all that next meeting. So if you all allow me to be on your agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, be there.
Thank you so much. And I'll be available for questions regarding any of the matters.
Got a question for you.
Oh, yes, Mr. Nye.
You came to our finance committee meeting
Yes, sir.
and was asking about a money deal. I thought maybe you were gonna talk about it. Oh,
Yes, sir.
sorry.
No, sir. I will just be waiting over on the side for when, and if you do have any additional
I
questions.
was just trying to move things faster.
I did not stop the mayor. I did not stop you. The mayor did. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great night. I'll be over here.
Thank you, Judge Minor. Treasurer Karen Kiep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have in your packets the cash summary report for November 2021, the cash reconciliation report for November 2021, and the collateral report for November 2021. I ask for your approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved by Diane, seconded by Russ to approve the cash summary report for November 2021, the bank reconciliation report for November 2021, and the collateral report from Stockton Bank. The discussion.
I was just wondering, as just a point of clarification, I was reading back through some of the prior year's minutes, and it was right at this time, so in December, January, early February, that the city usually went out and asked for estimates from the different banks on what kind of interest rate they could provide us for us storing, especially some of the bigger accounts, such as water and sewer or street and alley. Are we still doing that? Are we seeking estimates on different amounts they could pay us in interest payments?
Yes, and interest has just been down. And right now, we're getting better interest in the money market where we have it at Stockman than we are with the state investment. They are giving us more interest than they offer.
Yeah, that was one of those where we went out and asked for a bid, and Stockton came in the highest. Do we still ask for those bids from all the other banks? And
I do check with them. I don't per se. I can run it down for you. I'll get it current.
sometimes if they know, they might,
Yeah, you'll be surprised. It's low. I mean, you just aren't making what you used to make. It's likely to turn, and I'll watch it, but yeah, we're getting a good deal right now. I know it doesn't seem like it, but we are.
No, I knew we were getting a good deal from Stockman. What I just wondered is if we went out and asked for competitive bids on what kind of interest rate banks could provide for the city.
Right. Well, I'll report next month. You never know,
Great, and,
month to month, but it hasn't changed much, I can tell you that. It went down, 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 and it pretty much stayed there. And stopped to beat everybody at that point. But I'll check. And I did the same thing when we had to get a bond for the Island Street project. Hit on things, yeah. And it was one of the best rates, so.
and that was
That happened to be
Commerce.
Bank of Commerce.
Right, yeah. Great.
I will
Okay,
do so. Yeah.
let's move on. She'll get you the reports. Okay, we have a motion out there to approve it. We have a call for the question. Raymond's called for the question. All in favor of approving the cash summary report, the bank reconciliation report, and the collateral report, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Right? Motion passed unanimously. Okay, next one, tree board, Mary Jo O'Rourke.
We have a meeting on Monday evening.
Okay, Monday, what day is that, the 20th? Okay, the reports from standing committees of the city council, the judiciary, Mr. Nye, Mrs. O'Rourke, and Raymond Graham.
We have no meeting, no report. I'm sure we'll have a meeting this month, which will be, when's the next council meeting? Usually we have it the day before the next council.
It'd be the 18th then. Okay. Finance Committee, Don Hand, Russ Swan, and I.
Okay, in your packet, we have our minutes from our last meeting, as well as the line item budget report, the fund summary for claims, the claims by vendor, and the budget versus actual. I ask your acceptance.
Move to approve all 6.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Russ and seconded by Diane to approve all 6 of the line items. Discussion.
I'd like to leave item V out to be handled separately.
Okay. Yep. Item B is left out, it'd be the approve the minutes and the first 1, 2, 3, 4 claim reports and vendor reports. Discussion. Have a question?
Call for the question.
Okay, question's been called for to approve the minutes of the December 30 meeting, approval of the line item budget report summary, fund summary and claims for December 2021, claims vendor report for December 21, budget versus actual report for December 2021. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously.
And our final one is item 5 on there, approve a claim for approximately $885 to the city court.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Russ, seconded by Dan to approve.
This is kind of an oddball one, so I've asked the judge to come in and perhaps explain it just a little bit for us.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Hand. And so everybody knows it's actually not $885, it's $585. That just was probably a typographical error. And it's quite simply an alleged bond overpayment, and that occurred in 2021. And in order to close out my books for the court for 2021, I'm asking the city council to approve a one-time $585 check to the court so that we can close out our books, keep all of our financials in excellent order. And we do hope to get reimbursed for that $585, which would, of course, the reimbursement would go back to the city immediately upon receipt.
Any further questions for the judge?
So this is the payment for the bond on the court, correct?
This is, there was an alleged overpayment of a bond, so more money came out of the account than should have, so we just need to recoup that It's totally, we understand what is going on, from a financial perspective. We just need to get the money in, balance the books, and then hopefully we'll get reimbursed very soon.
Right, makes perfect sense.
And I think some people need to know they're coming, if I'm not mistaken, coming out of the general fund to do this.
That will call for the question.
Question's been called for to approve the claim for approximately $585 to the city court. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried to approve the claim to the city court.
Thank you, Finance Committee and Mr. Mayor. You will have reports regarding how this plays out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That completes my report.
Okay, Fire and Order Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No meeting, no report.
Health and Welfare meeting. Mary Jo O'Rourke, Diane Armstrong. Which one wants to report?
You were the chair.
I was the chair of vacant, because there was no meeting since our
There
last.
wasn't any meeting.
Yeah, so. No meeting, no report. Cemetery Committee, Ms. Armstrong.
No meeting, no report.
Parks Committee, Ms. O'Rourke.
No meeting, no report.
City Hall Committee, Mr. Graham.
Okay, before you, you will find a set of minutes for our December 16th meeting. I ask for your approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Diane and seconded by Diane to approve the minutes of the December 16th meeting.
It was Dawn.
Dawn, okay.
Close.
Dawn. Going deaf in my old age. Discussion on the minutes.
Call for the question.
All in favor of approving the minutes of the City Hall Committee, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay, as you see, we had a couple of different discussions. I'm going to skip the first discussion in favor of the second discussion first, which is the roof on, replacing the roof because of storm damage and stuff. We're still kind of in negotiations with the insurance company and debating on just what exactly they're going to pay, and how much we really need to fix and what we're going to fix. So hopefully by our next meeting or two, we'll have more facts and figures and what we're going to do on them. So that'll be a to-be-continued issue. Hopefully the insurance company feels sorry for us and pays the lunch, but I don't know if they will. Okay, and then the second issue we got is approve the purchase of 10 Microsoft Surface tablets to replace the old ASUS tablets that didn't work. And we had a meeting, we talked to Nick Ruchek, brought us in some, in your packet, you'll see a configure your Surface Pro 3 tablet. He thought this would be the most appropriate thing if we wanted to replace the tablets, I guess. They are kind of expensive, but they're actually basically like a mini laptop. They work with Windows 11, I believe there will be one in Windows 11. There will be, if we approve the purchase of the Office 365, the email package will be just exactly like the real email, so there will be no more of these issues of, remember our last tablets were kind of prone to interruptions. So anyway, the price of the tablet will be $649.98, and we had on, I believe, to buy 9 tablets.
10, I'm saying.
10.
Okay, I didn't remember if the last one or down one. Which, you know, will be right short of $7,000. And then we also wanted to, on the back page, you'll see Office 365. We wanted to subscribe to the 365 service, which is going to cost $500 a year for 25 licenses, which actually will include licenses for all the computers and more than just the tablets, but if we buy the tablets, I believe the way to go would be to go with that Microsoft 365 just because of the email. It makes it so much better. We don't have to worry about another off-brand, some widget doing this or that, or it just would be so much better. Plus you would, with the Office 365, you would have some word processing capabilities. And if you look at the cover, actually is a keyboard that goes on there, which will make it, the only problem is they're still only going to be a 10-inch tablet, but they will be way more productive than what we had, is what we're hoping.
I have one of these at home and it's quite nice.
Okay.
Especially compared to the old ones.
Right, well,
It even rivals my desktop.
No, see, that old one, mine lasted about 2 months before I finally just gave up on it and brought it back to the city. My big issue was the email.
Yeah.
You couldn't get email, and when you did get email, it was so full of trash and spam, and so you just quit using it, so I guess the first thing we need to discuss is if we really want to replace the tablets with these.
Yes.
Well, we need somebody to communicate between ourselves during non-meeting times.
Correct.
And email seems to be the most effective way to do that, to reach everybody.
Right.
And especially if you get queried and they say, okay, turn over your tablets, let's see what you got on them. I just hand them my tablet and away I go. I don't have to hand them my watch and my phone and everything else. It's all my tablet.
Correct.
And these are good tablets and they're easy to carry. The fineness of the screen is not what you quite expect. It's not like my pen point. It's like double or triple the size of that. But you can highlight items and color and things and put different colors down. It's a pretty impressive machine.
And that's, from all the reports we got, that's what, it was far superior to our tablet.
And the Windows 365, I have that on my computer as well. I agree with Raymond, that's really the way to go. Because everything's there, your Word, your Outlook, your, I think, Publisher's on there.
Publisher, Excel, all
Yeah,
kinds of things.
Well,
The
one
stuff
stop,
that we use.
everything you're gonna do will be there.
Right.
So this is Windows 11.
This is Windows 11, I believe, is what it's going to come in. They're Windows 10 right now, but if I recall, on the one I was looking at online, they said that Windows 11 would come when available.
Yeah.
So it's available now, so I'm assuming these will be Windows 11.
I think that's what Nick said.
Did you by chance inquire if there was a discount rate for
Yes.
municipalities?
No.
That $500 a year is a government rate, Nick. said.
Oh, on the Windows 365, that is a discount, yes.
Then he talked about the computer-wise, I don't think
No.
he had a.
No, because I was
discount.
actually hoping, if we could order enough of them, they would give us a discount, maybe we would offer them for the city council or city people to buy their personal one too, and reimburse the city to get the discount. If they wanted one besides the city's version, you know what I mean? But there wasn't no discount because evidently they wanted to problem selling.
I'm just curious if you went to the college bookstore and asked them, I want to buy 10 of these with 365, I wonder what's going to cost them. That might be worth asking.
Right.
Well, there's no harm in asking. No.
Now, what vendor did you go through?
He's actually going through Microsoft.
The problem with when you go through the bookstore, what they are gonna come back with is, like an Office 365 for students. And, those prices, the price difference is huge. It's at least 50%.
Right.
But in terms of just the computer itself, this is a great computer. And I don't, you could go through the university, but then you have to make sure that you're comparing apples to apples.
I agree. But then again, we may only need the student version as far as software goes on there.
We what?
You may only need the student version as far as the software supply.
We are not students, Don.
No, that's true, but I meant what's allowed in that packet,
Yeah.
rather than the full-blown version. I don't know how many of us would use Publisher, for
No,
example.
the student version is sold to students,
Yeah,
and we're not students.
true.
So that we,
Might not let
that
us
would
have
be
it.
a different
Right.
product.
And then the next discussion we had, we'll do it all out one time and then decide how we want to do it after that, is how to pay for it. The previous layer thought he put it in the budget, he did not. And so it would come out of general fund, but then I brought up the fact that this would be a perfect example of something we could use ARPA funds from. And I brought it up, our ARPA committee member said it would be perfect because, you know, our justification would be if we ever have another emergency call and it required us to use Zoom, we would all have something functional that we could actually get online and use. As far as, you know, I remember the last time we all had a Zoom meeting, it was kind of iffy. I know I went through 3 different devices for it, finally found one that would work. So, you know, that would be a justification to use the ARPA funds if the council deemed appropriate.
So Raymond, what's the total damages on this one as it's presently presented?
I don't know if we added them all up because we didn't
You're
actually
saying 10 of
have,
them?
He
we
did.
didn't have all the
So
information.
$6,490.
Oh, so-
$6,500.
Well, and he estimated, I mean, he wanted us to go to the top and, the 7,500.
Yeah, well. I
He
think though-
estimated the total cost for the 10 computers would be around 7,500.
Right, but that did not include the Office 365,
Which is a one-time fee.
which is going to be actually an additional $500 a year.
Correct.
So I guess that won't be too bad to figure out, yeah.
That's a subscription.
Right.
That's where the.
Because I have them both. I have Office and Student.
Right.
You know,
We're
Raymond, the
looking
way
at
he was,
$8,000, what I'm seeing there. Is that correct?
What's that?
Is it $8,000?
Well, 10 computers is going to be $6,450 basically. So, yeah.
and then the $500 makes that $6,950 or just short of $7,000. So that $7,500 mark
You still gotta
that
have
he
freight
gave
in
us,
there.
Right.
yeah, would fit within it.
Now, does that include the cover too with the keyboard?
Yes, that's
Yes.
$99.
Well, I'll make a motion, we buy those with ARPA funds if at all possible. It does sound like it would qualify, but if it does qualify, I'll have to ask the ARPA committee if that actually qualifies. If I do that motion.
Second.
Okay. Been moved by Don and seconded by Diane to purchase 10 of the Surface Go 3s with ARPA funds if applicable. Any further discussion on
So question, so this is going with ARPA funds?
it? Yeah, we're gonna look at ARPA first,
So should it
then.
not go before the committee so that this community
Yeah,
does
that's
not
where it
think
needs to
that
go
we're
to.
doing it? So you're gonna send it to committee?
Committee.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted that clarified so the public does not think the city is spending money
Yep.
without going through the proper protocols they're going through.
So it's gonna go to the ARPA committee, which
Ask for their blessing.
ask for their blessing, come back to the council probably in a couple meetings.
Call for the question.
Okay, the question's been called for to look at purchasing 10 of the Surface Pro Goes with ARPA funds. It's gonna get sent to the ARPA committee for discussion and probably come back to us. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It passes unanimously.
Because it truly should be tabled and sent to ARPA.
What's that?
It should be sent to ARPA because it's a line item. So it should be tabled and sent to ARPA. Not that I know protocol, but
Well, it's being sent to ARPA first before
Okay.
purchase.
Yeah,
So
we're
it should
gonna,
be fine.
even though it's a line item? Okay.
So, let me get this, so if ARPA decides not to, we're gonna still get them through the general fund?
It'll come back
Then
to
it'll
the
come
council,
back.
and they'll have to figure it out. Gotta send it off to finance, one of the two, figure out. how to
Correct.
handle it.
That concludes my report. Thank you.
Next, street and alley, Dan Nye, Don Ann.
Before you, we have the minutes for December 6th. Ask for your approval. Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved by Diane, seconded by Russ to approve the minutes of the December 6th meeting. All in favor? I guess we have any discussion first. Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes? Say aye. All opposed? The minutes been approved unanimously.
Do have one action item. It's approval of the first reading of ordinance number 468, amending the Title 17 vehicle traffic.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been moved by Raymond and seconded by Russ to approve the ordinance 468, first reading. Discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to direct everyone's attention to section 10, so 10.76.050. And it would be on page 14. I think during this past election, we have talked a lot with constituents and citizens in Dillon about regulation and what makes good regulation and good policy within the city. Here we have this committee that worked on it for months and months and months, and we're talking about here over limit trucks. So the big trucks that are in excess of 24,000 pounds. And the things that we accepted right from the get-go were, number one, we have commercial streets in Dillon, and we have residential streets. And it behooves us to make sure that when we're looking at big trucks that need to travel around Dillon to deliver goods and products to different businesses and homes, that we create truck routes that are manageable for those big trucks. So that committee worked very hard, and I'm going to just give a little shout out to Mr. Hand, who really worked hard on creating those truck routes. And they are listed on page 12 and 13 of this ordinance, of this proposed ordinance. So what we've said is that when you have a big truck, these are the commercial streets that you should drive on. These are this is their city truck route. And then we suddenly, 2 paragraphs later, we say, okay, trucks, you need to follow these truck routes. But if you want to buy your way out, you can drive wherever you darn well please. If you want to come to the city and pay the city $50 for a year, you do not need to follow the truck routes. You can drive wherever you please. And so that's what section 10.76.050 does. It says if you want to buy your way out of it, come to the city and we'll be happy to sell you an annual permit. So my suggestion, because I don't think that's good policy, we don't want, but we would never say, if you don't want to follow the speed laws within Dillon, come to the police department and pay them $50 and you can go wherever, whatever speed you darn well please. I mean, that's not a good idea for how to create policy. So, what I'm saying is that there are occasions when trucks need to go outside of the established truck route because they're delivering goods or products to a residence. Say they are delivering cement they should be able to call the city, or better yet, go on the city's website and get a short-term permit so that they can deliver those goods. But for the most part, we want them to stay on the established truck routes. So my suggestion is that we knock out this whole section of 1076.050 and we replace it with a paragraph that says, a temporary permit may be obtained from the Director of Operations for the delivery of products to consumers or businesses outside of the designated truck route. A single trip permit may be valid for 48 hours. And then we would be making it, Mr. Hazelbaker has told me how especially cement trucks, and there's not a lot of other trucks that want to go off the truck route, but occasionally there are trucks that do need to deliver products outside that truck route. And we need to give them a mechanism, which I think we can, by that short-term, that single truck permit that's good for 48 hours. But we don't say that we've established these truck routes in 10.76.020 and then turn around in 10.76.050, say, oh, if you don't want to operate on the truck route, come on in and buy an annual permit. You can drive wherever you darn well please. We've had several people in over the course of the last 2 or 3 years that have talked about this, especially within residential areas, the safety of children is really that's, at least for me, that's the key concern here. Those truck routes are great truck routes, and we shouldn't be having those big trucks traveling through residential zones on a regular basis, and they will and they can if they can buy their way with an annual permit. So I think, you know, we have had 2 different people come in and talk about their broken down and disintegrated curbs and gutters because the big trucks go over them, and yet there is no way, it seems that there's no way for them to have those fixed. And it's those trucks that are traveling illegally through residential areas. So I hope that we will just change this a little bit by taking out that section and putting in a section for a temporary permit.
I'd like to look at this from the chief's point. How's he going to enforce it? You know, they're supposed to carry the permit, but as far as I know, it's not a big orange sticker they stick on the windshield. Chief, how do you enforce something like this?
Good question. I mean, I don't know. You would hope that they would just follow the, you know, ordinance themselves, but, you know, that's not necessarily the case. But, you know, everybody wants a cop on their street because people are speeding, or everybody wants a policeman out in front of their house because something's going on, but it will be hard to enforce. We have, well, I mean, Dan can testify to the fact that trucks aren't supposed to come down Sky High Street and then turn that direction towards Safeway, but they do, don't they? I mean, we go down and we write a few tickets in a day, and it doesn't, you know, it doesn't help maybe for a week, you know. So yeah, it'd be hard to enforce, but with anything else, it's you know, the same thing. You can do what you can do, but you can't do it 24/7.
So basically, if we make that change, we're going to write a law that can't be enforced. That's what I'm saying. And I don't think that's what our intent was. The idea behind the permits was so that at least we got something out of what they were doing. Now, the idea there wasn't allow them to run helter-skelter through the town. This was more for things like I said, cement trucks, the moving company trucks, a truck getting a load of building goods for remodeling a home. That's what this was designed for. It wasn't to allow them to run all over. And I think it's a fair compromise, what we're trying to do. And it's the only curbs and gutters are the problem of the street to repair and not private citizens.
Where is the compromise? We continue to, the fire chief has come to us and said, there is open sewage in backyards, and we throw up our hands and say we can't enforce it. There are trucks driving down residential areas, and we throw up our hands and say we can't enforce it. Yes, we can.
How much do you want to raise the police budget?
Pardon?
How much do you want to raise the police budget? Because the chief's gonna have to put on extra people, extra cars, extra equipment.
You know, what you do, I guess I would be proactive, Don. I would draw up the truck routes, and I would send them to the people who have big trucks and say, this is our established truck routes. If you would like to go off these truck routes to make a, unusual delivery or whatever, call the city and we'll give you a short-term 48-hour permit. Otherwise, stay on the truck routes. And then when trucks don't stay on the truck route, what happens, usually in our past, what has happened is that neighbors take videos of that, and then I ask them to take the videos down to the police department and show the police, and the police do whatever they do, and it gets cured.
I have one problem with that. They tried that on Sky High. And unless they have the number of the trailer and the number of the truck, there's nothing they can do.
And they do, they take
No.
pictures of it there.
Just a second, let me finish.
I'm
Mary
sorry,
Jo.
excuse me.
And the other thing that's not mentioned, you say, well, we only charge them $50. That's for every individual truck that the company owns. That's not just for the company, that's for every vehicle that they have. And I think you it's misleading when you don't mention that. The other thing is I agree with Don. These companies, and they're local companies, they aren't just some company coming in from wherever and doing this. These are companies that operate within our city. And like the mixing trucks or the concrete trucks or the freight trucks, when people order in stuff, it throws into bulk of freight and they gotta deliver. And they pay the $50 fee. So why do you want to make things harder to make them every day? And I know the cement trucks are pretty much every day on the city streets. You're just creating a problem as far as I'm concerned.
Can I say something real quick? So there are over length and over width permits bought every day on state highways, on interstates. And it's an annual permit. You go into the state of Idaho, and in certain instances, you need a Idaho permit. You buy it, it's good for so long. I think an annual thing would be the simplest, the most easy to administer, because Todd doesn't have time to be every day when LS Ready Mix needs to haul a load of concrete to someone, or the bread truck going to Safeway every time they want to go down Sky High and turn. That they're not going to stop and talk to Todd. If you want to get the revenue, you better do it. Because I think if you continue to do the onesies, twosies, you're going to have more time enforcement than you're going to have in actual permits.
And the other question that came up was, okay, who's gonna pay for the curbs? Well, the city is, a lot of those curbs are owned by the city. And the city could pay for them, and the other question was, well, $50 isn't enough money. Well, maybe we should up that fee. That's a possibility. So when we go back to looking at cost or fees that we were gonna look at, that's something we can look at. But I agree with you, it's gonna create more problems or more work than what it's gonna help.
Chief Giverson, do you want to weigh in on this at all?
No, I think you guys, don't shake your head, you ask me a question. So, what I would say is that do what you're gonna do and we'll do the best we can, just like on other things. But like you said, non-enforceable stuff, we just don't have time to do a lot of this stuff. And that's the problem in lies, that we don't have enough time to do the investigations into cases, felony cases that we have. We'll do the best we can. We'll definitely do the best we can, as we always have. It's just not something we can eradicate by, the same thing with, we're talking about the blight or people parking on streets. You need to have that done. We want that to be done. We want this to be done. Well, I have one officer on during the days. They can't be at both places at once. And then you're also taking calls. So it's difficult to enforce. I don't think it's different than in any other city either. It's, you have to prioritize, and that would not be the top priority. We'll do the best we can. But I think it's up to, I think it's up to the council to make the laws. It's up to us to try to enforce them. But I'm just giving you a reality check on what it is. I agree with you. I mean, I wouldn't want people flying in front of my house too, and driving fast. That's why there's a speed limit.
Well, I think that the first time a child gets killed, it'll come front and center. And Dylan has a history of children being killed. And that's where truck routes came from in the very beginning for Dylan, was because of the Williams boy being killed, I don't know, probably 35, 40 years ago.
He got hit by a pedestrian.
Huh?
He got hit by a car.
He got hit by a truck.
No, he got hit by, because I was close friends with the girl that did it, was involved in that accident.
Well, that's where truck routes came from, was to keep big trucks off of residential areas. And I think we can all agree that what we want to do is create a town where people can come and live and raise their children in safe neighborhoods. And when we allow companies to just buy out of the established truck routes that are established in 10.76.020, when we allow you to come in and buy out of that, you don't have to stay on the established truck routes. We're saying, okay, it's okay to drive on those residential streets. And then when those residential streets get demolished because they can't accommodate those great big trucks, there's no one there to fix them. I mean, that's partly what's wrong with our streets, is we allow the wrong kind of traffic to drive on inadequate streets. The truck routes you came up with, Don, were great for commercial.
Leslie, do you propose outlawing high-heeled shoes?
Pardon?
Do you propose outlawing high-heeled shoes?
Sure.
Because a woman's high-heeled shoe applies more pressure on the street than a truck tire does. A fully loaded truck tire, PSI.
Oh, well, if we're gonna be silly, let's just be silly.
Well, I'm not being silly, I'm being scientific here.
No, you're being silly.
No, that's what it is. You can go check it for yourself. But I really don't think putting those limits on is gonna help our businesses here at all either. They've got to be able to freely move things in and out. Like Mr. Hazelbaker mentioned, I don't know of a single child that was hurt by a large truck. Now, nowadays, bear in mind, it's about a $2,500 class to go get your CDL. those guys are really persnickety how they protect that. You can't get it, just go in and take the test anymore. So you're seeing a lot more professional drivers than you ever saw.
Are we ever going to create anything that will be a benefit for the people who live in Dillon and who buy homes in Dillon? Isn't there any place for them within our policies?
Aren't these business owners, people that live in our community?
And boy, we created a great truck routes for them. We created 2 pages of truck routes for them.
And I don't think we got enough.
Yeah, that might be right.
And is that a good policy to be able to buy out of a policy?
Have you made a motion?
I move that I move that we remove section 10.76.050 and replace it, remove the verbiage that is there now and replace that verbiage with a temporary permit may be obtained from the Director of Operations for the delivery of products to consumers or businesses outside of the designated truck routes. A single trip permit may be valid for a 48-hour period.
So I think if you want to change that much of it, you need to send it back to committee and have it changed. You know, we're not sitting in a council meeting, because this went through a committee, got this far, now we're discussing it, we've taken 25 minutes almost discussing something that's been covered in committee. So if you want to change that much of it, because then it's going to have to go back through a reading. And pretty soon no one else will like it, and they'll get, so my motion's been made. If there's a second, we'll vote on it. Is there a second to the motion Mary Jo made about changing all the verbiage in section 10.76.050? Okay, their motion died for no second. There's another motion on the table to accept this first reading.
I've got a couple of
Oh, okay.
things going.
Is there any more discussion?
I have, and I'm not too sure, on line number 35, Argenta Street to Banning Street, from Banning Street to the city limit. I would think that would be, and I don't know why Argenta Street, because to get to Argenta Street, you gotta come up and turn. I think a better fitting with that would be Bozeman Street from Banning Street over, because it's a straight shot off of Swenson Way. When you come on that corner, you turn right straight on Bozeman. Argenta is actually a block up, so if you come in there, you gotta go. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, okay.
And that's actually the way, if you watch down there, like the snow plows been coming through, that's how they come straight down and go straight down Bozeman Street to Reeder.
Right down Rice Street.
And then they go to right to the fairgrounds. But when they come off Swenson, they just go straight down Bozeman, they don't turn and come
I
up.
thought Bozeman was that little street that kicked off to the west.
It kicks off to the right.
Yeah, Bozeman.
Oh, to the right, that's
right.
It does, but Bozeman is the one right at Swenson Boulevard.
Okay,
Argenta's a block out.
so that's Bozeman that goes all the way to the south end of town?
Bozeman goes all the way, no, that's Park that goes to the, well, no,
That's not far.
no. Bozeman's the one, when you come off Swenson Boulevard, if you just go straight, you're hitting Bozeman Street.
Right.
Okay.
If you want to get on Argenta, you have to turn up and then over.
Oh, okay, I see, we identified the wrong street.
Right, I
there.
think you're just a block off.
So you propose changing Argenta in line 35 to Bozeman?
Correct.
Okay.